case. Just talk about everything, all that. And then the Rips and Tuck and Yang. And then Wilderson. Okay. You should not have this debate on their research arguments, but on if the act is a good idea. We have presented our case for why we think we should reject PMCs, and your vote should be on if it is a good idea to reject PMCs who are committing sexual violence in the status quo. The officer offers no way to address this, and we actually offer a specific instance to do this. Now we'll discuss about how our conversation will spill up to affect the institutions so that we can have this change that we need to see to prevent sexual violence and have a give justice for these individuals and bring the PMCs to court. Extend our arguments that they do not engage in our narratives. We actually read the narratives that give these people their voice. However, we have left the individuals anonymous. We name the contractors because we believe those are the individuals that need to have their day in court so that they can serve and have their justice for raping and committing sexual violence. Yes. On to Tuck and Yang. So once again, they have not refuted our argument about how we talk about the anonymity. Once again, it's Nick Snidely's argument about how such as artists such as that have presented pictures of lynchings, but they leave the face of the person blank. That is why we have presented our narrative when it is a good idea to do so, because we leave them anonymous. We still read their words because they would like their story to be told. That's why they told it to American prospects in the first place. But we believe this is an important discussion to have so that we can address these problems and lead to a solution through our dialogue. Also, we talk about, so the alt, once again, is a world of silence. They try to say that they offer a way to address that. However, they still do not engage in any of our narratives. They do not read any of them. They cannot simply assert that they do so when they actually have no instance of doing so. They try to say that they infer it. However, this is not good enough. We need to have their stories and give these people their perspectives and presenting their cases. Extend the argument empathy politics are not hierarchical. That's exemplary evidence because this creates politics. Empathy that Weisenberg, this views the law. Our stories are good for us, but also for the state because it allows the law to work better and function for the people. It is good for us, but it's good for us to hear it, but it's also good for the state. And they try to talk about how Wilderson is not gendered. However, they do not even read the part of the card where he says that they contradict themselves. Therefore, give them no grounds on that. We actually read his card in his discussion where he says all of these parts about how he is gendered. Therefore, extend our argument that he is gendered. Do not allow any new analysis, as well as
so that turns the K.
That turns the K because if you are basing it off of Wilderson, who is not going to be actually inclusive and as well as to address the gender violence, it will only be another form of violence against individuals. That is why we should be able to have the AF. Therefore, they cannot solve for what they say they are. And they talk about how the AF excludes it and does nothing. However, once again, they extend our technical arguments on how we are intersexual and we do allow for a new form of feminism. We are not this exclusive form of white feminism. We don't leave because we are not the law or state affirmation. Demand on the state does not exclude groups and it doesn't reaffirm the state. That's our Newman case. Also, no link. We don't believe the U.S. We are the U.S. federal government. We just advocate for them to remove it. That does not mean that we are saying that the state is good. However, the way I see the demand on the state to acknowledge the harms of PMC, we create a dialogue that challenges the harms of the PMCs. No link to fiat. They try to say that it is illusory. However, it's still a good idea to start fiat because we are allowed to have educational stuff and talk about the need for having these changes and what that would mean for the world. Also, we don't think pretending to be the state is good. Ever 2005.
You don't need to
okay,
read that.
That's fine.
Answer their sequencing DA. They don't have any articulation of how they stop PMCs from existing.
So they have no articulation of how they stop PMCs. Therefore, give them no arts for how they solve for the
granting black bodies subjectivity does not mean that PMCs go away or that black bodies who are being raped by PMCs stop being raped.
Granting them that does not mean that anything changes in the status quo. Doesn't mean that they stop getting raped or anything like that. But however, beginning our dialogue leads to a shift in the discussion as well as in the law. Also, they talk about how we will just shift and then there will go other places. However, new depending on priorities, provide a few openings for PMCs, no shift for 2012. At the moment, everyone is looking to the not OCA funded. The new depending on priorities believe that will provide for a few records for traditional PMC. Washington Strategic Pivot for the U.S. Asia Pacific region have many mainly worships for the uniformed Marines with little help from the extra hired muscle. The Congressional Research Service also supports the PMCs. I'm that we shifted. They brought in 2013.
No, it's fine.
Okay,
that's argument. They don't have a warrant why that's true.
So they don't have a warrant for why that's true. They just make that argument. However, allowing for people to be PMCs to be held accountable will allow for people to understand the violence that they are doing in the status quo and lead to a shift in how we address them.
Progressivism is possible, which means it's not not a disadd to the app.
Progressivism is possible, as long as it's not a disadd to the app. We actually cite in our cards all about things about how, once again, blackness is not ontological, but it is categorical, because we have things like the Black Liberation Movement, the Jim Crow laws, the South Africa apartheid movement, things that all show that it is not actually ontological.
Moreover, we can combine movements. This isn't a justification for the perm, but a reason of why in the, like,
we can combine, okay, moreover, we can combine worlds. It's not saying we are going for the perm, because we aren't. However, it can show that this is not mutually exclusive, that we can have this removing PMCs, but also have other initiatives where we are allowed to address anti-blackness. And the counter-perm solves none of the case. It is sketchy as hell. Only vote for it if they win the disadvantages outweigh the app, plus you don't get to take the app. It also doesn't solve for the app. The alt rejects the state, and the counter-perm advocates for state action. You obviously can't do the app, which advocates for that. Sequencing also does not check this fact. The question of the alt versus the affirmative. That's their argument, and we don't theoretically get affirmed because it's in this debate. Since we're not, there's no net benefit to the counter-affirm, and also we are not going to the counter-affirm, therefore do not give them any offense on the arguments that they read, because it would only go against us if we actually went for the affirm, which we do not go for. And so, yes, there's no link to it, because, as we've already said, we are actually intersectional. Therefore, we are able to do the app while not being anti-black, because we are citing different sources about our narratives and are able to show that these women's
the argument that slavery is the great leveler is our argument that there are power differentials with, like, among black bodies.
Yes, there are power differentials among black bodies that
they don't account for that.
They don't account for that.
You have 323.